Okay, Boker Tov, everybody, and welcome to our class on Sefer Shmuel, sponsored by Livona Chapter of Hadassah Women in Israel. Uh, we hope and pray that everyone is safe and healthy, and we hope that everyone is enjoying the summer months. So we're going to get started with our reading of chapter 13 of Shmuel. We um, we had a few weeks at between the Chagim and not having class, etc. That we did not learn a Shmuel. So I want to just give you a little recap that uh, Shmuel has anointed Shaul king, King Saul. He is the first king of Israel, and he is appointed by God. And we learn that Shmuel is very, very unhappy that there is a king over Israel. And God says to Shmuel, "Don't worry about it. I'm going to appoint a king. I'm going to tell you who it is. You're going to anoint him, and we're going to see how it goes." Basically, God was willing to give in to the people's demand that they have a king over them, like all the other nations. And God says to Shmuel, "Listen, you, Shmuel, don't be upset. It's me. It's me, God, that the people have left and gone astray. And they want to be like every other nation. God was supposed to be the king over all of our brethren and all the tribes of Israel. And unfortunately, it just seems to be that the people wanted a physical leader. But basically, they wanted a leader because this area was so filled with war after war after war. Gee, that hasn't changed. Um,
Mm, yeah.
that the that we learn that the people, the idea of a king was no different basically than a shofet, the judge who arose and led the people in battle and was successful and got the enemy off of the Israelites back for X amount of time, whatever amount of time it was. And so the people said, no, we want someone like full time, not one show fit and then another and another and another. We want somebody who is our leader and we can look to lead us into battle and lead us into peace and have peaceful times and have a successful economy and have a successful country. And the people were insistent. So we get a king. His name is Shaul. He is anointed, and right away and he's also, by the way, from the tribe of Benjamin. He we learn that he is heads and shoulders above the rest. Well, we're not sure exactly what head and shoulders above the rest means. Some people say head and shoulders above everyone in stature because of his physical height and the way he looked. Or some say that he was head and shoulders above everyone at the time, right, religiously, righteously, that he was very, very much a, knowledgeable of Torah and led a life of Torah and mitzvot. And so we're not sure exactly why Hashem picks him, but like I mentioned in the shir about the two sisters, Leah and Rachel, the tribe of Benjamin comes from Rachel, and we learn that this could be a tikkun from the tribe of Benjamin, from the book of Shoftim, where the tribe of Benjamin was almost decimated because of the concubine of Giva, the story. We won't go into that. But in any event, Shaul is finally introduced to the people. And I'm going to show you before we read. Oh, maybe I'll do it after we read. I'm going to show you a map. You know, I love maps because I think we ought to know where we're talking about. It's important. So I think we'll read the text and then we'll go from there. Okay? So let's, a minute, hold on. Okay, can you see that? Chapter 13, Shmuel? All right. Do I have a volunteer reader? Come on, ladies. Jump in.
I'll read.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, chapter 13 of Shmuel. Saul was a year in his reign, and he reigned 2 years over Israel. That's not a long time at all.
We're going to
Two.
talk about
Yeah.
that. You know, usually we hear about a king. Remember, for some of you who have been with me for a long time, we did study Malachim, kings, and right away in the book of Kings, whenever we're talking about a chapter where there's a new king, we always learn who the king is, who his mother was, his father was, and how long he reigned.
Right.
Now, here it says he was a year in his reign, and he ruled for 2 years. Now, if we were to read the Hebrew, we would find out that really what this was saying is that Shaul was 1 year and then he ruled for 2 years,
So
which doesn't make sense. He wasn't 1 year old king. He wasn't a baby king. But the Meforshim of the commentators look at this pasuk and they say, wait a minute, he had to rule for more than 2 years because he had a son, Jonathan, who was, much older. He was in battle with his father. He didn't seem to be married at the beginning when he was anointed. We know very little about his family, but at least we know that he fought many, many battles. So the Mefarshim really say that this sentence, this pasuk, is extremely difficult to translate and to understand. And in many cases, the commentators just leave it alone. They just say it. And we're going to talk about this in depth after we read this. So I just wanted, it was not a 2 year reign, it was longer. It was not that he was a child king. So let's move on from
Okay.
this pasuk.
Okay. 2. And Saul chose for himself 3,000 from Israel, and they were with Saul. 2,000 in Michmash and in the mountain of Bethel, and 1,000 were with Jonathan in Gibeah of Benjamin. And he sent the rest of the people, every man to his tents.
Okay.
3. And Jonathan smote the officer of the Philistines who was in Geba, and the Philistines heard. And Saul sounded the shofar throughout all the land, saying, let the Hebrews hear. 4. And all Israel heard, saying, Saul has smitten the officer of the Philistines, and also that Israel has become hateful to the Philistines. And the people gathered after Saul to Gilgal.
Okay. So what we find here is that there is right away, there is a military operation and that Shaul is successful. He eliminates one of the heads of the Philistines. Gee, we haven't heard that before. And he continues with his fighting. Go ahead.
Okay, 5. And the Philistines gathered to wage war with Israel, 30,000 chariots and 6,000 riders, and people as numerous as the sand on the seashore. And they went up and camped in Mishmash to the east of Beit Aven.
Okay. So we're learning about this particular battle, which we will talk about in a minute. Go ahead.
Okay, 6. And the men of Israel saw that they were in a strait, for the people were hard pressed, and the people hid in the caves and in the thickets, in the rocky crags, in the towers, and in the pits. Okay. And some Hebrews crossed the Jordan to the land of God and Gilead. But Saul was still in Gilgal, and all the people hurried after him. Was he running away or no? All right.
No, they were just that. I think some people left Israel. They didn't. Well, part of Israel was on the west of the Jordan River, because don't forget the tribe of Reuben and Gad and half of Manasseh were over on the other side of the Jordan River. So they went over there where the battle doesn't seem to have been happening. Maybe defectors or something. Go ahead.
8. And he waited 7 days to the appointment time which Samuel had set. And Samuel did not come to Gilgal, and the people scattered from him. 9. And Saul said, bring near to me the burnt offering and the peace offering. And he offered up the burnt offering. Okay, 10. And it was when he finished offering up the burnt offering that, behold, Samuel came, and Saul went out toward him to greet him. 11.
Okay. Now, okay. Before you continue, we're gonna hear something now that's a little distressing. Shmuel has told in a couple chapters before this that before you go out to battle, wait for me 7 days, and when you go out before you go out to battle to make an offering to God, wait for me. Now let's see if what happens. Go ahead.
Okay, 11. And Samuel said, what have you done? And Saul said, for I saw that the people had scattered from me, and you did not come at the appointed time of the days, and the Philistines are gathered in Michmash. 12. I said, now the Philistines will come down against me to Gilgal, and I have not yet made supplications before the Lord. And I forced myself, and I offered up the burnt offering. 13. And Samuel said to Saul, you have done foolishly. You have not observed the commandment of the Lord your God, which he commanded you. For now, the Lord would have established your kingdom over Israel forever. Okay, 14. But now your kingdom shall not continue. The Lord has sought for himself a man after his heart, and the Lord has appointed him to be a ruler over his people, for you have not kept that which the Lord commanded you.
All right, what did you just read here? What did Shmuel just tell
that he's out?
Basically, you're right. That's right. He did not look. Here,
Oh,
Shaul says, I did this because the troops were running away. They were leaving. They were waiting for you. You didn't show up. Well, he did show up. He just didn't show up when Shaul thought he should show up. He did show up on the day that it was appointed, and the sacrifice was made without Shmuel being there, and apparently listening to this request from God was tantamount to anything else that Shaul could do. Does he follow instructions? Does he take his orders from God? Does he make sure that as king of Israel, he leads a godly army into battle with God leading everyone? And so it wasn't, you could say, oh, okay, so he made a little bit of mistake, why this is pretty harsh. He's being told that he's not gonna he will be king until the end of his days, whenever that happens, but he will not have the dynasty. that's
hmm.
that's exactly what's happened here. So here
Is that
we
what makes him? Is that what makes Shaul start to hate David?
well
Because isn't David
Wait,
coming up
wait,
next?
let's wait. Let's wait to see. Let's wait. Wait, let's not
Okay.
get to David yet. David's probably David may not even be born at this point. We don't
Oh,
know.
I know that.
Okay, so
Oh,
let's
okay.
continue. Go ahead.
15. And Samuel rose and went up from Gilgal to Gibeah of Benjamin. And Saul counted the people who were present with him, about 600 men. 16. And Saul said, and his son Jonathan and the people who were present with them were staying in Geba of Benjamin, while the Philistines were encamped in Michmash. 17. And the raiders emerged from the camp of the Philistines in 3 companies. One company turned to the road leading to Oprah, to the land of Shual. And 18. And one company turned to the road leading to Beth Horon, and one company turned to the road leading to the border, which overlooks the valley of Zeboim toward the wilderness. 19. Now, not a smith was found to be, I'm sorry, now a smith was to be found in all the land of Israel, for the Philistines said, lest the Hebrews make sword or spear. And all Israel.
Excuse me. This is a very important thing for us to understand. For those of you who don't remember this from the last time we studied this, the Philistines did not allow the Israelites to have weapons. And
Right.
and if they had any kind of tools for farming, metal tools, they had to go to the Philistines to have them sharpened or to have them created as tools, because the Philistines did not want the Israelites to have weapons of war, spears or swords. So they had a real sway over Bnei Israel. They were really a thorn in their sides. Go ahead.
Rhonda, can I just ask a question, please?
Yeah, we're almost finished. We'll hold on to it. Go ahead, Linda.
Number 20. And all Israel went down to the land of the Philistines to sharpen each man his plowshare and his coulter and his axe and his mattock. I don't know what those are.
They're tools.
Just instruments. Okay.
Yeah.
21. And there was a file for the mattocks and for the coulters and for the 3-pronged pitchforks and for the axes, and to set The gold or the gold?
No, the gold. I don't know what it must be referring to something farming or whatever.
Oh, okay. 22. And it was on the day of the of
Yes.
war that neither sword nor spear was found in the possession of all the people who were with Saul and with Jonathan, but Saul and Jonathan, his son, had them. 23. And the garrison of the Philistines went out to the other side of Michmash.
Okay.
Oh,
So
wow.
so here's the first battle. We learned many things. I'm going to show you. Let's see here. We're gonna go ahead, Mary, and you said you had a question.
Yeah, where it said there was not a smith in the land or whatever.
That's right.
Um, do we know what happened to them? Were they all killed or were they sent away? Or are we talking about a generation later where they didn't know how to do smithing? I mean, what does that
It
sentence mean?
wasn't that they weren't allowed to. It seems that the Philistines would come into had sort of like a rule, over Israel, and they just kind of came in and made sure there was no smiths or no people making metal, iron instruments, etc. This
So
could
what
have.
it's saying is that there wasn't anybody doing smithing in the land
That's
that
right.
time.
That's right.
Okay, all right.
That's
Thank you.
right. Sure. Okay, so I'm going to go to a map to show you. Okay, so here's this map. All right. Can you see it? This,
Yeah.
this little blob, looks like an amoeba kind of thing going around here. This whole thing is the kingdom of Saul.
Oh,
All, all this inside of here. Okay.
Judah, Ephraim.
Here on the side
All
here
country.
is Philistia. That's all of the kingdom of the Philistines, the Plishtim. You see that all along here.
Yeah.
And we have Gaza and Ashdod, Ashkelon, all up and down the coast. They had quite a swath of land here. And you see, here's the Jordan River right here on this side. And so we had part of what is now Jordan. We had, or what people call the West Bank. Here are the tribes over here. Here are the tribes over here. And, um, and so consequently, we see what the area that Saul reigned over looks like. And the people had to go over here to get their weapons sharpened, etc. Now, let's see if we go closer. We find, all right, Hebron is down here. You see, here's all up this coast. You see all of this here? All up and down the coast, including Gaza. That all is Philistia. And then we have over here, we have areas um, that Shaul was, he got anointed. And let's see, here's Yavesh Gilad. That was from when the last time we encountered the battle with Shaul. Um, Now let's go down here. Let's find where the battle. Here's Gavia right here that was just mentioned in the chapter. And the
Yeah.
people ran over to the side where Gad and Reuben were over here on this side. And let's see. Here's Hebron. Guess who's living in Hebron? David is down. Maybe he's there already. We're not sure what. He's probably a baby right now at this point. And then we see here's Moab, here's the other guys who are, certainly Ammon, who are not our friends, but at the moment, our biggest enemy were the Plishtim. Okay, so this whole area is where Shaul um, is ruling over. Okay, you see that it's not a very big area,
No.
not huge. It's less than what we have today. But in the meantime, that I wanted you to see what it was that we have, what we're talking about. So when he moves his troops, it's not a terrible amount of land that he's traversing to go from one place to another. All right. So now that we kind of know where we are in all of this, I have I was actually, I'm always on the internet looking for interesting commentators or commentary about what we're learning, and I came across a very good lecture from the OU, and I thought I would play it for you because I think that this rabbi from the OU Nach series, it's called, describes this particular chapter quite well. A lot of times I don't agree with some of the things they're talking about, whatever, but I think that this might be interesting for us to take a look at. So if you will.
Can I just ask a question first?
Sure.
Okay. All right. You said that David comes much later. So
Not
Shaul
much, but not at the moment.
later. Okay. Shaul now doesn't rule anymore.
Well, yeah,
Right?
of course he's doing. He's still ruling. He just is told at this time by Shmuel, you're not going to have a dynasty. But he didn't take the kingship away from him.
Oh, I didn't understand that. Thank you.
He's going to still remain king. How can he not? We know that he continues for a long time.
Right. Then why does it say, 2 years and that other thing?
This rabbi explains it very well, much better than I could, and that's why I wanted to share it with you. So let's go to wait a minute. Uh, hold on. Let's go to. All right. Oh, wait a minute. Hold on a second. Let me just get the sound better for you. All right, let's see if this works.
U.org.
Can you hear that? Let's see. Wait a minute. I'm sorry. A little technical situation.
www.etshalom.com in our ongoing study of the book of Vayom Shaul.
All right, well, let's start.
Work for the following reason.
All right, now we're going to go into this particular lecture.
That this text is.
Let's see if we got it all here. Hold on. Sorry about this little situation here. Hold on. I just messed that up. Hi. Sorry about this. Now I am uh, I am having some real technical difficulties here, ladies. I'm so sorry. I hope you'll just bear with me for a few minutes. I hope it doesn't take a few minutes. Okay, does anyone have any questions while I'm trying to get this all back where it should be? Any comments, any questions so far?
Where is Aaron?
Aaron is
I was just going to say.
Aaron is out of town.
Oh,
So yeah. Okay. Not to worry. I'm going to do this.
okay. We have faith in you.
All right. Let's see what we got here. Okay. Let's try this again. All right, we're not going to be able to see this, hear this apparently. Says it's no longer available. I don't know what's going on, but let's go to something else. Okay. All right. Okay, so what are the main issues here in this particular chapter? What we find, and we're going to move this over a little bit. What we find is that there are several things here going on, and it's very important that we understand exactly what's happening because it has an impact for the rest of our the chapter, the whole book of Shmuel, actually, until we get to Kings. And what is very important for us to understand is that this particular chapter is the chapter where we find the downfall, one of the reasons for the downfall of Shaul. Now, um, I want to show you the points that are very important that we should know about. Whew, this is just not working. All right, so what we found out is that the reign of Shaul is not 2 years. It is a much longer period of time, and the Meforshim tell us that this is an impossible situation to understand. We don't understand why, what happened. We don't understand why Shmuel records it this way. It is a very unusual sentence because what they think in the Talmud about this particular verse is that perhaps when the scribes were copying this Sefer and they were writing down what Shmuel wrote, that it was misinterpreted. And after that, none of the other commentators have an explanation for this particular discussion about what was going on with the time frame of Shmuel and Shaul at this particular point. The second thing is what's going on is that we see the Philistines are really taking hold of the country, and they are really in charge. They are leading one little skirmish after another skirmish after another. It's not all out war. We've seen this throughout the history of the Jewish nation. We find out that what happens is they have such a hold on the area that they don't even allow us to have smiths who are doing metallurgy with iron and creating weapons. We can't even defend ourselves because these Philistines have such a hold on the land of Israel. And this was the beginning this was why Shaul was such an important ruler, because the Philistines were so horrible in terms of their hold over our land. And it was really up to Shaul to destroy the Philistines once and for all, which he doesn't do. Okay? Now, it's almost as if I'm talking about modern history. Did we get rid of Hamas once and for all? Did we get rid of, all of the proxies of Iran once and for all? It just seems we can't finish a war. And so Shaul's term as king is a very important period of time where he is going to be trying to get us unhooked from the tentacles of the Philistines. And it's not until David comes along that he kind of ends the reign of the Philistines for a goodly amount of time. And then we hear that the korban by Shaul is presented to God before Shmuel gets there. We've learned in 2 chapters prior to that Shmuel says, look, don't start any war until I get there. You wait 7 days. I will be there. You'll do the korban, and then you will go into war. And so consequently, we find out Shaul didn't listen. And the minute that Shaul gets to the place where he had arranged to meet Shaul, Shmuel says to him, "What'd you do?" And he says to him, I couldn't wait any longer. I was losing the men. They were going away. They were running away. And if I had waited any longer, I wouldn't have had an army. And so Shmuel says, yes, that may be true, but I told you to wait for me. And because you couldn't listen to the word of God, then you will see the results of your action. And that will be that you will remain king until your days are ended. However, your name will not be for a dynasty. And so this is the first blow, emotional blow to Shaul. And we see that one thing after another. In the next chapter, he's given another instruction that he doesn't carry out. And one thing leads to another, and that Shaul just is a frustrated person who wants to do what he wants to do, when he wants to do it, how he wants to do it, and he is not listening to the word of God. So this is a big problem. And so we find out that he is given the bad news that his son, of course, would have been Yonatan, does not take over the kingship.
Oh, I see.
Okay, so but we continue to read about about Shaul and his relationship eventually with David. Now, also, we find out in this particular chapter that the troops are being amassed by Shaul, that his main job is the military operations, and he is going to put together as many people as he can, but he doesn't feel like he needs so many troops. But we read in the chapter that the Philistines had 30,000 chariot and riders. And we learned that they had 6,000 archers and foot soldiers. I mean, this is a huge battle that we're talking about. However, with the help of God and the belief in God, Shaul is going to be successful, even though the Philistines have amassed a huge war chest there, a massive amount of people. But God says you don't need to take all these people into war, all the citizens of Israel. And so he gives victory over to the Israelites. And basically, this is the chapter. We learn how the Philistines have subjected the people because they can't even get their farm tools sharpened. They can't do anything. But it does say that Yonatan and Shaul did have something. And we're going to learn that they had a sword, a very important sword. And we'll hear about in the next couple chapters about that particular sword and its importance. So basically,
Sword.
what? A sword. A sword. They had what? In all the army, they had archers, they had slingshots, they had God knows what other implements of war. But they did go against the Philistines, and they were successful, and they eliminated the head of the army at that point in time. And that's basically what this chapter is about. I'm sorry, I had some technical difficulties here with the lecture, but maybe next week. Anyway, are there any questions or any comments at this point about what we're learning about Shaul? Okay. All right.
When do we learn how many years he actually was king?
We don't.
Oh, that's good.
This is all this is it. That particular pasuk is what we're given, and that's all we're told about his rule. But the fact of the matter is we will see all the different things that he does, and we're going to say this cannot be that he was only a ruler for 2 years.
Yes, right.
It's almost impossible. It's impossible. And the Talmud talks about this in several different sections, and it says what were the thoughts of writing that it was 2 year reign? What was that? And they talk about it in detail, and they're perplexed. So they give different reasoning that maybe it was as if it was such a quick reign that it was as if it was 2 years. It was like 2 years because of the accomplishments that he did, but yet he didn't take Bnei Israel into a good place. And so, and then they drop it, and then they leave it alone, and they don't talk about it anymore.
Right.
So
It's just that one. It's just in the beginning what it says, and nothing else.
Right. Okay.
We can learn from history today. Look what Trump, for instance, has accomplished in 6 months. Look what's been going on in Israel in 6 months.
You're right.
So it doesn't have to be a long period of time that things can take place.
Well, you're right about it. Doesn't have to be, but there are certain indications throughout the rest of the few chapters we're going to read about Shmuel, where in fact um, it's impossible. It's impossible to have this kind of short amount of time. So okay. So hold on a second. I think I got this. Okay.
Welcome to OU.org and www.etshalom.com. My name is Yitzchak Etshalom, and I'm pleased to be studying Sefer Shmuel with you. We've just concluded the very tragic and difficult episode of David and Bathsheba, and as I mentioned in the last podcast, are waiting to see what the larger ramifications and consequences of this episode will be. And it is not long before we find out.
Wait. This is the wrong one. Hold on a second. We're not with Bathsheba and David here. Hold on a second.
That's Shmuel too.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. Oh, it says here, Shmuel 1, chapter 13.
Greetings and welcome back to OU.org and in www.etshalom.com in our ongoing study of the book of Shmuel Aleph, the first book of Samuel. Today we are going to study chapter 13, Perek Yud Gimel. And my name is Yitzchak Etshalom, and it is my pleasure to study this Perek with you, a chapter which includes several fascinating textual challenges, one at the beginning and one at the end, and we will spend a little time talking about them when we get there, and we'll get to one of them right away. If you recall, when we completed the 12th chapter, we had studied about the coronation, or the successful third coronation of Shmuel at Gilgal. That will confuse us a little bit in the middle of this upcoming chapter, but we'll deal with that in its time. And now we are going to hear about an episode that will take place over this and the next chapter, which is Shaul's war against the Plishtim, against the Philistines, which seems to be, from all of the evidence we have, the reason that he was named to be king in the first place, has to be king, was so that the king will save us, in the words of the people, from the Plishtim. The text begins in the biographical style of Sefer Malachim, of the Book of Kings, that describes a king's rule, and you'll see this from the beginning of chapter 13 to the end of 14, is presented in this manner. It tells us how old the king was when he became a ruler. In some cases, it tells us who his mother is. It tells us how long he ruled. It tells us about his children, about some of the things he did, and then he dies. And that's what will happen at the end of 14, and the next podcast will deal with why that happens at 14, even though Shaul will not die for a while. Nonetheless, here's how we start. Ben Shana Shaul v'Malcho, u'shtei shanim malach al Yisrael. This is a nearly impossible verse to decipher. To say Ben Shana Shaul v'Malcho, which literally means Shaul was 1 year old when he ruled, is just something that we can't countenance. The Gemara already deals with this problem, and the Gemara in Masechet Yoma Daf Chafbet indicates Rav Huna's drasha that Shaul, when he became king, was as free of sin like a year-old baby. It's a very nice drasha, but it just doesn't work for the following reason, is that this text is, again, in the style of all the biographical notes that we have of kings, that gives us, and it's for some reason, a critical thing within the royal biographies, to tell us how old the king was when he first sat on the throne. And to say that this is a uniquely midrashic or homiletic presentation of his age leaves us wanting. Besides which, the second half of the verse is also difficult. Ushtei shanim malach al Yisrael. So we will have to, for this text look towards Rabbi Tanchum HaYerushalmi, a student of the Ramban who wrote a commentary on Sefer Shmuel, and he made the following observation about it. Parenthetically, it's important to note that in the Septuagint, the Greek translation of the Tanakh, and one note about the Septuagint for readers who may be a bit nervous hearing about it, is the Septuagint or Septuaginta or Targum HaShivim was composed chiefly by and for the Jewish community of Alexandria, most of whom did not know Hebrew and wanted to have a translation of the Bible available to them. The Chumash, according to tradition, the first 5 books were translated at the behest of Ptolemy Philadelphus II in the middle of the 4th, in the middle of the 3rd century BCE. But subsequent to that, the Alexandrian community commissioned scholars to translate the rest of the Tanakh into Greek, and the Septuagint is an invaluable resource for us, especially in deciphering difficult texts. What does the Septuagint do here? It ignores the text totally and goes straight to Pasuk Bet. So it won't help us in this case, but it does demonstrate that the difficulty of the text existed as far back as the 3rd century BCE. So Rabbi Tanchum HaYerushalmi makes the following suggestion, and it dovetails with something that we spoke about in our study of chapter 5 when we discussed Kriyuch Tiv. He says as follows. His claim is that we have an evolution of misunderstanding. That originally the text said Ben and had a number. For instance, Ben Shloshim or Ben Esrim. It likely was one number for the reason I'll point out. But let's say Shloshim. Ben Shloshim Shanav Masha'uv Mocho. He was 30 years old when he ruled. I'm making up the number, but let's assume that. And at some point, some scribe who was copying did not copy the word Shloshim carefully, and it became jumbled, and therefore was hard to read. And therefore the next scribe who copied it did not know what to copy. So what did he do? This is Rav Tanchum HaYerushalmi's approach. He says, what did the next scribe do? He simply left the word out, because he didn't know what to copy, but he left the space, so that people would know there's a word missing there. We don't know what it is, but there's a word. At some point, a later scribe came along, saw the space, and realized, well, somebody must have made an error in leaving the space, put them together, and you end up with an unintelligible text, Ben Shana Sha'ul B'Mocho. So we would have to posit that Shaul was a particular age, which we know he was, when he began to rule, and we don't know that age, and we never will know that age. In any case, the text then continues, Ushtei shanim malach Yisrael, that he ruled for 2 years. Now this is also difficult, unless we put the following caveat in. Without doing too much of spoil, and this will be a little bit of a spoiler alert, later on, in a couple chapters, we're going to find that Shaul is divinely dethroned, although that is only de jure and not de facto. And he continues to operate as a king for quite a long time, while David, who is the rightful king, continues to wander and to run away and to act with his band to defend Jews in other parts of the country. And that goes on for quite a while. He stayed in one place for 1 year and 4 months. So it's very hard to say that Shaul's entire reign was 2 years, unless we posit that it was 2 years from the time he became king until he was de jure dethroned. In other words, when God stripped him of the kingdom, the kingship, and then for a number of years afterwards, he continued to operate as a de facto king while David was in place, and then once Shaul died, David took over. That is probably the only way that we can solve this conundrum of the years. So we move on with our study of the parak. And now we find that Shaul is unlike what we had in Parak Aleph, where it was an ad hoc battle where he assembled a lot of people, 330,000 people, to go to war, and then presumably they went home. Now he assembles 3,000 soldiers, which sounds to be like his standing army. It's a very small army. Shaul, alpayim b'michmas, 2,000 of them were in Michmas, Uvahar Beit El, the Elef Hayum Yonatan Megivat Binyamin. So Yonatan, who we have not heard about before, but Yonatan, who we will later find out is Shaul's son, go with him to Givat Binyamin, Giv'ah, and so now they have an army of 3,000, 1,000 each, evidently, in Michmas and in Har Beit El under Shaul, and another 1,000 with Yonatan in Givat Binyamin. V'yetor ha'am shilach ishto alav, and Shaul sent the rest of the people back. He sent them back home. Now, He sent them back home from where? The timing here is a little bit strange, as we will see. So for right now, we're going to have to ignore the end of the Perek Yud Bet and pretend that we have not been at Gilgal yet, and state that Shaul is now returning from the battle at the end of Perek Yud Aleph and has sent everybody else home, all the other soldiers home, and keeps 3,000, and then they go in these directions. Vayach Yonatan et Tziv Plishtim. Yonatan took decisive, proactive action and killed the garrison of the Plishtim, Asher Begeva. Geva is here a little bit loose because it should be referring to Giva, which are not the same place. Vayishma'u Plishtim. And the Plishtim heard, which means now the Plishtim are aware that the Bnei Israel, who have now got a king, and now they're starting the rebellion, which we anticipated, and now we're going to go after them. And then Shaul went through the land, got the shofar blast to get everybody going, and to assemble all of the Ivrim. In other words, the 3,000 were a standing army, but they provoked the Plishtim, and once the Plishtim were provoked, then everybody was called. But what did everybody hear? They heard that Shaul, meaning under his orders, killed the Netziv Plishtim. V'gam niv'ash Yisrael by Plishtim. Yisrael has stunk themselves up with the Plishtim. They fouled themselves. In other words, they know that the Plishtim are now going to come after them. V'yitzaku ha'am acharei Shaul ha'Gilgal. So what happened? Loyally, they all went to Shaul, to Gilgal. Now, this sounds like it's another trip to Gilgal, but as we will see later on, this seems to be the original visit to Gilgal, and another piece of it, even though it included korbanot and celebration. And now, Plishtim nasfu lilachem Yisrael 30,000 rechev v6,000 parashim v'yam kachol asher al sfat hayam larov. This is pretty sad, pretty dangerous. The Plishtim gather, and what do they have? They have 30,000 chariots and 6,000 horse riders, to 6,000 cavalry. And the people are kachol asher al sfat hayam larov, as many as the sand by the sea, which of course is very painful for us to hear, because that's a description really that we are used to about ourselves. And they came east of Beit Aven, which is near Beit El, and they camped at Michmas. That's where they set up their camp. And Michmas is a real good location from which to hit both north into the Shomron and west into the towards Beit Horon, and east down towards Yericho. It's a really an ideal place to be. Michmas, for those of you in Eretz Yisrael or going to be in Eretz Yisrael, if you go north out of Yerushalayim on the bypass road, not long after you pass one of the roadblocks, you could see on the right hand side Muchmas, it's an Arab village, and Malay Michmas, which is ours, and that's the area where Michmas is. And indeed, if you go to Adam, which is the ancient site of Gava, you could stand at Adam and look down, you could see where Mavar Michmas is, and when many of the events in these two chapters took place. A reliable guide and a Tanakh, and of course a canteen and good hiking boots is always recommended. V'yish Yisrael ra'u kitzarlo. So the army saw that they were in trouble. Kinigasa'am, people were tired or frustrated. So what happened? They hid. Plishtim are coming in amazing numbers, and here's a small army, even though the other people had assembled. They hid. They hid in caves, and they hid behind bushes. That's chvachim. We'll take a look and really see in Perek Yud Aleph, chvachim should be read differently here. Uvaslaim, they hid behind boulders. Uvatzrichim. Tzrichim is bunkers, natural bunkers. We saw it in Shoftim Perek Tet, when Avimelech came after his own people. Uva Barot, they hid in cisterns. In the meantime, V'ivrim avru et Yarden. Play on words. The Ivrim passed over. They crossed over to the Yarden. Eretz Gad v'Gilad. They went to the land of Gad and Gilad. They went to the east bank to run away. Shaul odenava Gilgal v'chol am chardu acharav. And so Shaul was in Gilgal, and everybody was trembling. Now, Cholam is a little misleading. Cholam means all the people who were there were terrified. In the meantime, many of them had run away. Vayochal shivat yamim. So he waited 7 days, lamoed asher Shmuel, to the time that Shmuel had told him. Now, recall back in Perek Yod, when Shmuel had anointed him for the first time. He said, all these signs will happen to you, then go to Gilgal and wait for me for 7 days. So we have to posit that this happened earlier than the coronation at Gilgal that we read about in Perek Yod Bet, which was all festive, and here this event takes place, but that still raises some questions about it. In any case, he waited for the 7 days. The people are getting anxious. Many of the people have run away. The Plishtim are attacking. Shmuel didn't arrive. The 7 days came, and the people were starting to leave him. And Shaul said, give me the olah and the shlamim, and he brought the korban. Now, this may indeed be an alternate take on Perek Yod Bet. The end of Perek Yod Aleph said they went to Gilgal, and then they rejoiced, and they brought korbanot. This may be the background to it. They went to Gilgal, but there was something else besides rejoicing over the king. There was also preparations for war and dread of the Plishtim coming, and Shmuel was not there yet, and he brought the korban. Murphy's Law, of course. He waited, and the minute that he brought the korban, what happened? Shmuel showed up. And this is a scene that we will see repeated in Perek Tetvav. Shaul comes out to greet Shmuel as if nothing bad has happened. And Shmuel says, what did you do? And Shaul immediately understands that bringing the offering before Shmuel came, against Shmuel's instructions, was wrong. Shaul doesn't say, as he will later, why, everything's fine. He understands something's wrong, and he says, I saw people were leaving, you didn't come on time, and the Plishtim were coming to Michmas. And so I said, we'll talk about this word in a minute, the Plishtim are going to come, Hagilgal. And I have not yet prayed to God. I restrained myself. Evidently what he means here, and there's several commentaries that go in opposite directions on this, but it may mean I restrained myself this long, but then I couldn't restrain myself any longer. And I brought up the korban. In other words, Shaul is giving an explanation, or more properly, really an excuse as to why he brought the korban against Shmuel's instructions before Shmuel came. And he said, basically, it was other people's fault. You didn't come on time. The Plishtim were attacking. I had not yet prayed to God. I had to bring a korban. And this reflects, and for the first time, reflects some of the real deficiencies in Shaul's personality. One of them is an unwillingness to take responsibility for his own failings, which we will see in a much larger sense in Perek Tetvav. But we see it already here. The second thing is that Shaul believes in the essential and inherent value of bringing an offering regardless of the moral or religious context, which is a battle fought throughout the first temple period in Tanakh about whether a korban is inherently valuable or it's only valuable with proper thoughts and proper background and proper context and proper acquisition, etc. Shaul seems to believe, I can't go to war without a korban. You're not here, so I got to bring the korban. And that's what he does. Vayomer Shmuel al Shaul niskalta. You have been foolish. Lo shamarta mitzvat Adonai levacha asher tzivach. God, you did not fulfill the mitzvah that God commanded you. Meaning, when I told you to wait, that's God's command. God was ready to establish your kingdom forever. This, of course, is very problematic for those who interpret Bereshit Memtet Yod 49:10 as the phrase that says the scepter shall never leave Judah, and who have to contend with the monarchy of Shaul, not from Judah, and who interpret as saying, well, this was a temporary monarchy. They have a big challenge here because Shmuel explicitly says, had you not fouled up, you would have had a dynasty forever. And now, instead, your dynasty will not stand. God wanted a man after his own heart, meaning a man who would obey God. And God charged him and commanded him to be a Nagid over his nation. You did not keep that which God commanded you. And therefore, Shaul already hears at this early point in his rule that his dynasty will not happen. He may stay king, but he will not have a house. Now, going back to Pasuk Yod Bet, I mentioned the first word, va'omar. The verb.
Okay, I think that this was mostly what I wanted you to hear. I think he explains it very well about the time frame and the amount of how he interprets the first line in the first pasuk about the time, and that he was like as if he was a 1-year-old, and his reign was as if it was two years, etc. And I just thought it was an interesting way of discussing it. So I hope you enjoyed listening to him. He has a very different style than I do. You know, he reads the Hebrew, etc., and then he translates it. Something that my Hebrew is not good enough to do that. But I think you get the idea that this was a pivotal chapter in Shmuel for Shaul, and that from now on we're going to see little by little by little by little what happens to Shaul and how he decreases his value in the eyes of God, and he shows himself to be truly not the right person for kingship. So join me next week when we take a look at the next step in Shaul's career as king of Israel, and we'll see what happens then. I hope in the meantime everyone stays safe. Don't forget to check your emails from Hadassah. There's an upcoming program in July 14th where we will be having a wonderful speaker, a Lieutenant Colonel Ayal Dror, discussing his book, Embracing the Enemy. He was the one who started a program on the Syrian Israeli border of taking care of Syrian children that were involved, part of the war in Syria. And it was an amazing, amazing experience. So please go and register because it's very limited seating. We want to keep it in the Dimri area. We don't want to have people having to travel and out of the neighborhood. So please register. It's for men, women, and teenagers. Fascinating story by this Israeli soldier. So please join us and have a wonderful rest of the week and a beautiful Shabbat. So to everybody, I thank you for joining. Thank you for your patience. And we'll see each other, Mirz Hashem, next week. Take good care. Before we end, is there any questions?